Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this webinar on 2021 job trends in cloud, containers, and automation, organized by IPSR. A very warm welcome to all the resource persons, students, faculties, job seekers, working professionals, and my colleagues in IPSR. For today's webinar, we have four resource persons, each doing a presentation. Before we kick off into the presentations, let me just tell you who we are, who IPSR is. IPSR is, okay? IPSR Solutions Limited is a public limited IT company which has over 20 plus years of expertise in software product development, training placement, and digital marketing services. During the last 2 decades, IPSR has actually worked with over 250 academic organizations, including universities, autonomous colleges, and technical, non-technical institutions. The training division of IPSR conducts faculty development training programs, seminars, workshops, add-on courses, corporate training, job-oriented training and education, IT and IT-enabled services domain. IPSR was a training partner for technical education quality improvement program Tech IP, a World Bank assisted project executed in government engineering colleges by the Indian Ministry of HRD. IPSR is also the world's leading radar training and certification partner with 37 national and international awards and produced the highest number of radar professions in the world. So far, IPSR has trained candidates over 50 plus countries. IPSR's IT Services Division is a pioneer in development of academic solutions products, incorporating new technologies of artificial intelligence, data analytics, and machine learning. IPSR also has specialized services and solutions for the education sector, ranging from simple websites to complex software applications that help to manage academic and operational activities like question paper generation, campus automation, accreditation process like NAC and NBA, and OBE, outcome-based education. IPSR's placement division has also over 1,500 placement type companies and conducts recruitments on all days. That is our about our IPSR and our services. Now we have our first presentation, which will be done by Dr. Mendus Jacob. A brief introduction about Dr. Mendus Jacob. He's the MD and CEO of IPSR Solutions Limited and Valiant Technologies UK. He's a prominent academician and an entrepreneur with 30 plus years of experience. He is also the director of MCA program at Marian College, Kuttikkanam Autonomous, former director of School of Applicable Mathematics, MG University, research guide of Lincoln University as well. And he is also a member of academic and administrative bodies of autonomous colleges, engineering colleges, and also business schools. That's about Mendus, sir. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. Good morning and welcome to this session of opportunities in cloud, containers, and automation. As Sijan mentioned, we have 4 small sections. Different people will be talking on the opportunities in the different areas. And I will give you a short introduction about the opportunities, especially in the emerging technologies like cloud, containers, and automation. As everybody knows, this is the era of data. Data is the new oil, just like oil was instrumental in the economic progress in 20th century. Now, data is everywhere, and the organizations which will work with the data will be successful in the 21st century. So it is called data, the new oil. And I will just give you statistics about the data generated each day by humans as of 2025. 463 exabyte of data will be generated each day by humans as of 2025. Here, 1 exabyte means 1 followed by 18 zeros. So you can calculate the huge volume of data being generated in the coming years. Now, almost all the jobs are related to data, or we can say data-driven. Now, coming to the data center modernization, how the data center modernization is happening over the years. In 1980s, we have the mainframe technology, and 1990s, we have the client-server technology, and 2000, the internet era, and today, everybody is on cloud, and the new coming technology like containers. So this is the way the data center modernization is happening. And coming to the, again, the job prospects. This was a survey conducted by NASCOM in 2015-16. This study was conducted on behalf of the Government of India, and they have identified the prospective areas which will be booming in the next 5 years. That means up to 2020. You can see cloud computing on top, then IMS, infrastructure management services, or information security, then comes to data center engineering, 4G technology, data analytics, mobility, etc. And out of these, 7 areas, cloud computing, of course, it is related to data. Without data, the cloud computing technology will not survive. So data center engineering, then comes 4G technology or data analytics. Everything is related to data. So the future jobs, you can see the growth of all these technologies the last couple of years. So all these future technologies are dependent on data. Now, this is a report by techrepublic.com. It was published in 2019. AI, big data, cloud computing, and automation are having a dramatic impact on IT job roles and hiring practices. IT evolves in the direction of more cloud adoption, more automation, and more artificial intelligence, machine learning, and analytics in the future. So we are all witnessing all these growth of the respective areas. And there is another report, according to Mark Hurd, Kochi Oracle, it was published in 2019. By 2025, 100% of application development and testing will be conducted in the cloud. But also said that by 2025, 80% of production apps will be in the cloud, and 80% of IT budgets will be spent on cloud services. All enterprise data will be stored in the cloud. So this is the way the cloud technology is growing over the years. And recently, there were some reports by different organizations, like Forrester Predictions 2021. According to their predictions, the global public cloud infrastructure market will grow 35% to $120 billion in 2021. Again, Gartner reports that by 2025, 85% of enterprises will have a cloud-first principle, because all organizations, the priority will be cloud. The NTT's 2021 Hybrid Cloud Report, for 96.3% of businesses in India, cloud is critical to meeting immediate business needs. So everybody is looking to cloud technology. Maybe there are reasons. The upcoming presentations, the resource persons will explain more about it. Then the scope of automation. As of today, if you can visit the different job sites like Naukri, you will find 6,277 jobs, Ansible jobs. LinkedIn, you can find 5,000 plus in India itself. And Shine jobs today, there are 11,696 Ansible jobs reported. So according to Gartner, by 2025, 90% of enterprises will have an automation architect, up from less than 20% in 2020. So in 5 years, this 20% will become 90%. 90% of the enterprises will have an automation architect. They require an automation architect. So there will be separate team for the automation of journey of every company. And Red Hat Ansible, that is in the forefront. Red Hat Ansible automation platform is a foundation for building and operating automation across an organization. Now, coming to the IBM, International Business Machines Corporation, IBM announced that it would be investing $1 billion to expand its cloud ecosystem. This was an announcement made in 2020. they will be spending or investing $1 billion. It expects hybrid cloud to be a $1 trillion opportunity, given that only about 20% of the workloads have moved to the cloud. So only 20% of the workloads have moved to the cloud as of now. And they are expecting a $1 trillion opportunity in the hybrid cloud. And they are utilizing the Red Hat OpenShift for that, for building that hybrid cloud. And 2-3 years before, IBM acquired Red Hat, and the cost was $34 billion. So why Red Hat has invested or spent that much money for this acquisition? They are seeing the $1 trillion hybrid cloud opportunity. Okay, they are using Red Hat technologies for that. And Red Hat is the #1 Linux platform for applications. And 80% of enterprise workloads have yet to migrate to cloud. So that means only 20% of the market is still already there in the cloud. So the remaining 80% business is there. So IBM is planning for capture that business. And IBM for almost all their clients, they are implementing these Red Hat technologies nowadays. And there are some news speaking about Red Hat. Red Hat has been named a leader by Forrester Research, the Forrester Wave Multi-Cloud Container Development Platforms Q3 2020. It was a report. You can see the graph here. Among the leaders, Red Hat and IBM, they are the #1 now. So they are becoming the leader nowadays for multi-cloud container development platforms. And the most recent news breaking about Red Hat, another one is the World Health Organization embraces Red Hat DevOps technologies, the automation technology, to assist healthcare workers during this pandemic. Yeah. And Red Hat OpenShift helps Porsche Informatic, this IT service provider for the Volkswagen Group, to deliver automotive innovation faster. So almost all these brands comes under the Volkswagen Group. They are using Red Hat OpenShift. Faradi Airtel accelerates its open hybrid cloud network deployment with IBM and Red Hat. Tata Consultancy Services gains agility and speed with open platform. They work with Red Hat to upgrade its legacy infrastructure with an open source technology platform. Linux is now on Mars. Thanks to NASA's Perseverance rover, the helicopter-like drone on board, it uses a Linux-powered software framework. So you can see Linux is everywhere. Linux is on the space. The International Space Station, they have switched over to Linux from Windows. Then Linux is there in the submarines. Linux is there the military services. For example, US military, they are the biggest client of Red Hat. So Linux is everywhere. Now coming to the opportunities of tomorrow in IT, everybody is aware about the new areas coming up like DevOps, artificial intelligence, data science, Internet of Things, cryptocurrency, then cloud native applications, public cloud, automation, telco, 5G, then edge computing. All these are the opportunities of tomorrow in IT. And you can see Linux everywhere, especially Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Most of these companies who are adopting these new technologies, they are using Red Hat Linux for their applications. So, and coming with the Red Hat technologies, they are in the cloud, private cloud, they are in the containers, they are the OpenShift, then for automation, Ansible automation, then comes the Kubernetes. So all the latest technologies Red Hat is having, so that the coming areas, the new areas which is being developed, every technology, they are using Red Hat technology. So more about this Red Hat technologies, their courses or their opportunities will be explained. The sessions are coming up now. So this is only an introduction session, and Red Hat is the world's leading provider of open source enterprise IT solutions, and more than 90% of Fortune 500 companies use Red Hat product and technologies. So there is a lot of scope for all these Red Hat technologies, then coming to the cloud or containers or automation, etc. So that's about this presentation. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mendus, sir. Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for showing us how critical this data is in our life and how it is important to learn these technologies on cloud and automation. Now, our second presentation will be done by Mr. Srinivas Prasad, academic consultant and corporate trainer, and is working from Bangalore. Is a highly accomplished professional with over 20 plus years of hands-on experience, having served as solutions architect, project manager, technical consultant, and IT manager with different companies like Accenture, IBM, HCL, and iGate. He is also the corporate trainer for HP, Cisco, Genpact, Standard Chartered, HCL, iGate, TCS, GMR, Oman Air, IBM, and Capgemini. Also, he is acting as an advisor for different universities. That's a brief profile about Mr. Srinivas Prasad. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jaiman. Okay, everybody, this is Srinivas. As Mr. Jaiman mentioned about me, I'm closely connected with the corporate and as well as with the academic institutions. My objective is to mitigate the gap between the requirement by the industry and the acquired skills by the students. So whenever I go and visit the academic institutions, I used to ask the students, what you want to become after your course? Or else I'll put it in another way, which course, which technology is interested for? Most of the students are still under the ambiguity that they have not made up their minds. In the sense, for example, if their cousin is working on testing, blindly they say that I am interested in testing. Why? My cousin suggested me. The other person, other girl will say that my uncle is working in Oracle, so I want to learn that. So many of the students used to tell me that because of their relatives, friends acquired the job in some particular technology, they also evince towards that particular technology. Because is it the right way to select the career path? No. So you have to understand what are the developments are happening and what are the challenges facing by the IT industry and what kind of scope we're going to have for the different technologies. For example, if you talk about the conventional business model so far, industry experience, all the IT business can be categorized into three verticals: application services, infrastructure services, and BPS. We used to call BPO. Now we are calling it as BPS. Under application services, we have different things under that particular gamut. Could be .NET, could be Java, PHP, something. Okay. So another one is infrastructure services like data center management, OS, messaging server, service desk, something like that. And BPS, like insurance, banking, whatever it is. Now, what are the challenges facing by the application services? Typically, in application services, the scope for the software development projects are coming down. Typically, web application projects, software development projects, the scope is coming down because of the competition, because of the saturation, and other issues also there. Okay. Here, the other disadvantage is the technology is so dynamic here. In the sense, today you may have one language in demand. Tomorrow, other language will replace this existing language. Okay. That is one thing. Other thing is, because of the automation tools, the basic coding is taken care by the tool itself. It is able to generate the required code. Okay. Even right now, today also, if you want to develop a website, some ready-made tools also are available. So with the help of them, you can create the website. No need of knowledge, no need of having any knowledge on the coding. So when it comes to the support, like typically tech support kind of thing, again, there is a threat from the automation. For example, if you take HP, So far, they are providing support for the big clients for their infrastructure. Now what is happening is they are developing an automation tool. The tool itself will understand, communicate with the client, understand the problem, okay, try to resolve the problem and give the solution. Where is the need of the manpower, okay. So BPO, there is a threat from the Philippines and Vietnam nowadays because of the cheap labor. Majority of the companies, they are shifting towards Philippines and other countries. Like this conventional business approach is facing some kind of challenges. Okay. That's the reason if you observe the margins in between 91 to 2000, IT industries used to get 53% of the margin. Between 2001 to 2010, it has come down to 28%. Now, in the existing 2011 and beyond, it is a question mark. Maybe it has fallen to the 15%. So 15% of the limited margins the IT industry has to sustain. Okay, they need to provide the infrastructure, they need to pay the salaries, they need to take care of the logistics and everything. Okay, so obviously in that scenario, every company looks to cut down the cost. Okay, to cut down the cost, what are the measures you can take? Straight away, they cannot sack the employees, right? Other methods. Now, because of the competition, they are expecting the billable resources from the day one. Billable resources in the sense, for example, if they recruit a particular fresher or somebody, they should be in a position to take care of the operations from the first day itself. Again, they don't have time and bandwidth or budget to train them for 3 to 4 months by putting them on the bench. Okay. So that is the reason industry is expecting the skilled resources. Skilled resources means they should be equipped with all kinds of skill. Could be technical, could be operational, could be documentation skills like that, so that they can put them into the they can utilize them as the billable resource. Okay. So if you see the size of the outsourcing IT market, okay, apart from software development, so many new verticals are emerging like telecom, communication, IT services, and computer equipment. Obviously, the industry is looking to get the business out of the new verticals, the new trend. What is the customer requirement? The customer requirement is changing now. They don't want to expect the traditional services like database management, web development and all. Their expectations are changing. Why they are changing? Because of the evolution, because of the industrial evolution. Okay. What is that evolution? Everybody is talking about 4.0, 4.0, something like that. Playing a vital role in the industry evolution. In 18th century, man invented the machine. Again, that is the first revolution. Second revolution, when the man invented the electricity. The third revolution, when the man invented the computer. So we have experienced the kind of impact the society had with all these three revolutions. So what exact revolution, what comes under this particular industry 4.0? That is nothing but automation. Okay. So automation is going to play a vital role. It is going to become a part and parcel of each individual and society, community, country, or whatever it may be. Okay. So that's the reason. So these are all the technologies revolving around that particular automation. Could be simulation, could be robotics, could be analytics, augmented reality, additive manufacturing, cyber security, something like that. Okay. So see the impact of the digitalization. Okay. So these companies did not exist in 2006. There was no Instagram, there was no Swiggy, something like that. But now what is the status of Swiggy? What is the status of Amazon? Okay. Within a short span, because they have adopted this particular digital technologies, they could expand their business in such a way. Okay. So that's the reason every company is looking to implement these digital technologies to improve their business strategies, to gain more profits, okay, to sustain in the market, even though there is a stiff competition is there. Okay. See the time to reach the 100 million customers. How much time it took for the telephone? 75 years. But now the Instagram within 2 years, the Pokemon has within 1 month. Though that is the scope of this is the typical scope of the digital technologies. So what are the, as Mr. Mendus already mentioned, these things are comes under the digital technologies like cloud, cyber security, IoT, blockchain, AML, augmented reality. Now, if we talk about the importance of the cloud, okay. So first, the companies, irrespective of the domain, could be manufacturing, could be services, could be logistics, could be IT, they're migrating their physical infrastructure into the virtual infrastructure. Okay, to cut down the cost. Okay, that is one thing. It will be flexible. Okay, so many reasons are there. That is one reason for behind the importance of the cloud. Another thing is to implement IoT, blockchain, AML. Again, cloud will act as the platform. Without having the platform like cloud, nobody can implement these kind of technologies or verticals. That's the reason, since the adoption is so rapid, the demand also increasing for the cloud. Okay. But what are the things comes under the cloud? Okay. But every technology will have some kind of prerequisite, right? Like that, to get into a cloud also, Linux is the prerequisite. Okay, because we are going to deploy the services on top of cloud, mostly using the Linux platform. So the one who is familiar with Linux, okay, is eligible to get into the cloud computing platform. Under that, again, different flavors are there, like AWS is there, Azure is there, VMware is there, like virtualization. Again, we talk about the data center engineering and OpenStack with Linux. Different flavors are there. To understand the concept is more important. To get into the real-time practices is more important. Okay. And to understand the integration is also very much important. How you can integrate your web server with the database server. How you can integrate with your storage, with your desktop. How you can deploy the virtual networks on top of the cloud. How you can establish connectivity between the physical network and the virtual network. So these things are very important actually. Okay. So on industry perspective, my friend, Mr. Chanchal Chatterjee, who is working for a very big MNC company in Bangalore, will explain you what are the industry requirements. Okay. So we know that there is an import, obviously there is a demand for the cloud, but what industry is expecting from the candidate? What kind of job roles you find in the industry? And what kind of typical teams works behind the cloud? You should know about all these things. Okay.
This presentation will be done by Mr. Chanchal Chatterjee. He's an industry principal consultant with an MNC in Bangalore. Over to you, sir.
Hey friends, my name is Chanchal. I work for MNC in Bangalore. So a little bit more about myself. It is around 20 years I'm working with the IT industry, and I work for the different companies, India and abroad, for about a decade. Now, just recently, I joined this MNC in Bangalore. Apart from cloud computing, I worked for about a decade in Java, J2E, .NET, RDBMS like SQL Server, all these technologies. So a very brief introduction I would like to give so that people understand what exactly the cloud computing is. So first of all, we have to understand what is the cloud computing. Cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with pay-as-you-go pricing. Instead of buying, owning, and maintaining physical data centers and servers, you can access technology services such as computing power, storage, and databases on as needed basis from the cloud provider like Amazon Web Services. So what does it mean? It means that if you do not want to buy the expensive services, for example, servers, for example, application softwares, for example, operating systems, you can directly approach to a third person who owns this, and you can say, boss, can I lease your application or servers or your operating systems or databases for a while? And that's what the model pay as you go comes. The pay as you go means that if you use their resources for some time, you'll have to pay the money, and as you move forward, that money will be deducted from your account. So when I say, I'll give you a very small example, very simple example, and you will understand what exactly it is. So suppose tomorrow my son comes to me and say that he wants to make a gaming software, gaming application, and eventually I don't have any software, I did not buy a license for, and if I go to market and buy that, it is costing me around $20 billion, which is, as a person, as a service person, I cannot afford to have. So in that condition, I do have only one choice, and the choice is that either I go for a pirated license or I go for a borrowing from some friend. But normally, in general case, nobody keeps that kind of licenses. So pirated versions is illegal. So I will definitely not opt that option. So what is the workaround then? The workaround is we will go to see some vendor who has a copy of it. I will go and use his machine for some time and pay him some money and make my application done. And that's all about the cloud computing. So what I'm trying to point here is that if there are the resources like hard drive, databases, there are some applications which you cannot buy, or you think that it is overall OPEX will be too much. So in that condition, what you will do, you will simply buy it from, you will simply lease it, take it for lease. And that is cloud computing all about. So we have a PaaS, SaaS model where we have an infrastructure as service, platform as service, software as service. So these are nothing but a kind of a leasing an infrastructure, leasing an application, or leasing a software. So this is what about the cloud computing. So in a nutshell, a cloud computing is nothing. If I say in a very simple word, it is a kind of a borrowing somebody's machine, application, operating system, or databases for some time to make use of them and develop something meaningful, and then pay the money as long as you use. So that is what the cloud computing is all about. If you talk in terms of the raw terms, so this is what the cloud computing is. What are the major features of the cloud computing? Major feature of the cloud computing: agility. You can quickly spin up different resources. When I talk about in AWS, as EC2, S3, RDS, and blah, 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 blah. Elasticity. Elasticity means you can actually spin up the instance quickly. For example, if you are using one EC2 instance, or suppose you are using one server from a vendor, and you want that all of a sudden your traffic becomes very high. So a lot of traffic which is coming. So what happens? You need another machine. So if in normal situation, you'll have to basically set up that machine, you have to do everything, but it is not the case in case of cloud computing. Here, the machine will be automatically spinning up. Cost saving and global deployment in minutes. So what happens there? It is something like you save the cost and you can do the I would say availability zone deployment. So any vendor does not have just one data center. It has a multiple data center across the world. It may be in Japan, it may be in Australia, it may be in India, it may be in Germany, or A, B, C, anywhere else. So these are called availability zones. And in availability zones, even we have regions. I mean, in regions, we have availability zones. So region, Asia region might have India, Singapore, Japan, this kind of the availability zones. Europe region might have Germany, Belgium, England. These might be the regions, and so on, so on, so on. So you can, when you use some services, it is not that you can use only one server of that vendor. You can probably, if that vendor, the server goes down, you can actually immediately, it will use the another server on another region, and you will not, then the system, the phenomenon will not let you feel that it will happen so quickly. So coming to the point, I was talking about IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. I'll give you different types of the cloud computing. So IaaS is basically a building blocks of cloud IT. It provides access to the networking features, computers, virtual dedicated hardware, and data storage space. So when I talk about leasing somebody's hardware, it comes under IaaS. When I talk about leasing somewhere's application, leasing somewhere like operating system, then it comes under the PaaS. When I say leasing somebody's application, for example, Microsoft Word, it is not, Microsoft Word is, for example, costing you $20 billion. So if you are leasing that, you are actually doing nothing but you are using a SaaS service. So these are the different type of the cloud computing. These are basic model of the cloud computing, I'd rather say. Now coming to the point where we were actually targeting to, there are multiple career options in cloud computing, where one can after completing the course, they can go become a cloud consultant, become a cloud reliability engineer, become a cloud infrastructure engineer. I will tell you the difference between them. Cloud security engineer, cloud security architect, cloud architect, DevOps cloud engineer, data science engineer, and cloud data scientist and head ML engineers. Cloud consultant is as good as they can ask you, if I have this particular module and I want to actually deploy it to the particular module, what are the precautions, what are the things that I will take into account, what will be the, so you'll be actually creating a request for proposal for them. You'll send a request for proposal costing, saying that what services we will use, what is our priority, what is our technology stack that we will be using. So class consulting is basically a kind of a consultancy role where you will be telling that if I deploy this application to the cloud, then what all things I would need and what all the instrument I need to have to deploy this into the cloud. Cloud reliability engineer, whether after deploying to the cloud application is reliable or not. So who defines that? That is a cloud reliability engineer. Reliable means there is no leakage, there is no SQL injections that is deploying in cloud. There is no such thing which is there in a as-is application which is going to the cloud and which is actually creating a problem for deployment. I give an example. Suppose your application, the core application which you are trying to deploy in the cloud has some SQL queries, and that SQL query is actually connecting to some on-premise database. That is, database has nothing to do with the cloud. Now this entire application go to the cloud and it is looking for that database which is there in the on-premise, and there is a problem. Now it is not getting the database because database is not there in the cloud. So those kind of the things, to monitor those kind of things, cloud reliability engineer is responsible to see that it should be reliable, that it should not happen. This use case should not happen. Cloud infrastructure engineer, what does it mean? A person who is actually responsible for spinning up the resources. If you want, when I talk in terms of AWS, if you want EC2, S3, so these are the different services of AWS actually. He is the person who will decide what all infrastructure you need. Cloud security engineer, what does it mean? A person who is responsible to secure the cloud. When the cloud is being deployed, then you will find out like how to secure it. No DDoS attack, no SQL injections, no any kind of a malware, phishing, any kind of the email security. That all comes under the cloud security engineer. Cloud security architect. So an engineer is basically a person who will actually do in an examination of the entire application to find out what all security things we can put in. That is an engineer role. Architect will put the services as and when required. So he will see that entire layout of the architecture, where what the application is, how we are deploying it in the cloud. In the cloud, when the application is being deployed, what all security services he can put. That is the architect's role. Cloud architect, as I said, the application is being deployed in the cloud. Cloud architect will define what all services we need to deploy in the cloud. So I'll tell you the phase by phase actually. It is getting a bit confusing. Actually, this cloud architect should come at point number 2. It should not come at a point number. So what we do is that a process is very simple. A customer comes to us. He says, I have a Java J2E application. Please deploy it in the cloud. I call the cloud consultant and cloud architect. Cloud architect defines the process where he says that, okay, these are the services we need this application to deploy in the cloud. Cloud consultants comes into the picture when there is some query from the customer saying that if we deploy this service, what will be the impact? Cloud consultant will say, okay, the impact will be this, or we can use another service like this. So that is the cloud consultant. Then when it is actually deployed to the cloud, then the picture of the cloud reliability engineer comes. Cloud infrastructure engineer comes in between. He spins up all the resources. And then cloud security engineer, he comes at the last, where he defines this complete deployment in terms of the security. In between, there are some other people also comes. For example, DevOps cloud engineer, data science engineer, cloud data scientist. So who is the DevOps cloud engineer? DevOps cloud engineer is the person who will deploy the DevOps, for example, in CI/CD pipeline. So that is where the DevOps engineer will come. Cloud data scientists and head ML engineers are those who will actually find out what is the data science associated with the cloud, what all machine learning tools that we can use in the cloud so that when you do something, it becomes automate. You have seen the example of in Google, you have seen when you type in something, it automatically populates the text for you, or maybe it is able to read your text and generate a voice message for it. So those kind of things can be easily handled by the machine learning, which is now going to be a part of the cloud. Coming to the top cloud vendors in the Indian market, so Amazon Web Service, of course, is the number one. Azure, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud, Salesforce, Oracle, then SAP, Rackspace, and VMware are the few examples. Now, when you say Linux, so I heard from Srini that people are here from most of the Linux background. So I tried to make one presentation which is dedicated to Linux people. So we will explore some options about the Linux professionals. System administration, networking administration, technical support, web server administration, Perl and Python developers, Ruby on Rails, device driver, application developers, PHP and MySQL developers, Linux system developer, DBA, kernel developers. These are some roles which Linux professional can opt for. Now I'll give you an insight of how the cloud jobs are basically segregated across the world. So we have these are the examples of the different companies which are giving the cloud jobs. EMC Corporation, Amazon.com, Salesforce.com, VMware, Verizon, CyberCoders, Akamai, Microsoft, CenturyLink, Hewlett Packard. So biggest chunk of the job is with Verizon, 17%. And when I say Amazon also have, it is around just head-to-head of Verizon, that is about 60%, 16%, sorry. So these are the very old data, actually. I would not say fresh data, but then fresh data are better. I mean, where Amazon has a larger chunk of the market, and definitely Salesforce and Microsoft, they have a bigger chunk in the market. So these are the 2013 data. And I think with this, I would like to conclude this presentation. I have given the insight of what the cloud computing careers are and what are the job opportunities. Thank you for being with me on this webinar. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you. The next presentation, we have Mr. St. John Providence, who is the team lead and of the Linux division in IBSR. He's a Red Hat certified architect. He's an RHCA, that is, and Red Hat certified instructor, RHCA, with 14 plus years experience in the IT industry. He has completed his MSc in computer networking from London Metropolitan University. His experience in cloud computing and Ansible makes him a popular corporate trainer, and he has trained candidates from America, Europe, Middle East, Africa, and Asia Pacific. That's a brief introduction about Mr. Sen. Sen, over to you.
Okay, good morning all. By now, I hope everyone understood the importance of having skills in Linux, cloud, and automation, and also in containers. So I would like to give you some demonstration on automation in cloud by setting up some multiple web servers. So here I have total of 5 servers. So out of 5, I'm going to set up 4 servers as a web server. I will use Ansible as an automation tool. So I'm already logged into my control node. So that is acting as my Ansible control station. So the main objective is I want you to convince that, okay, how the automation help you to speed up the deployment of web servers. Like if you do it manually, you need to follow these steps, one by one steps in all of the machines, like installation of packages, starting and making that persistent in the background, then add the port to the firewall, and create the index.html file or any home page that's supposed to be presented in the web server. So these all steps. So this is a basic code. Okay, don't think that it's a complicated one. This is a very basic code. Even though it's a basic code, if you want to set up thousands of web servers in a load balancers, you need to do it manually, right? If you're going for a manual task. But I'm going to show you how I can set up at least 4 web servers by executing a simple script. So at a time, 4 web servers will be up. So we'll check the current status. So we have node 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll open the page with the public IP address. Okay, the page timed out. I'm signing in again. Okay, so this is the IP address of node 4. Okay, currently the site cannot be reached. Okay, so currently that site is not ready. But I'm going to execute this playbook. So we call it as a playbook. See, once I executed the playbook, it started installing Apache and Firewall on all the nodes, not only on a single node. It's doing on all the nodes. So even if it is a 50 nodes or 100 nodes simultaneously, the packages, the services, everything, all the tasks initiated simultaneously. Now I refresh the page. See, welcome to webinar. So this was my code, right? If I open the code, this is what I meant. Server, web server with this content. Welcome to webinar. Yeah. So that is node 4. What about node 1? Yeah, node 1 also showing the same content. Node 2. So this is actually publicly available. I'll put in the chat box. All 4 servers set up simultaneously. Okay, I'm just putting one IP address in the chat box just to check from your side. Okay. Suppose I want to change the content. Instead of welcome to webinar 2021 job trends in cloud and automation, I want to just put like welcome to IPSR. Okay. So I can simply type an ad hoc command. So this is the command Ansible. Then I'm mentioning all the nodes with module copy. Then I'm passing argument with content. So the content is welcome to IPSR. And the destination to specify, that is the document root for Apache web server, that is var www HTML index.html. Okay, so this communication is happening. The communication between the Ansible control node to the managed host is happening in the SSH. So I should specify the username for SSH communication. So here I configure the username user, EC2-user, and also for doing this kind of administration privileged tasks, I need privilege escalation. So that's what I'm using -B here. Okay. There is some mistake, right? Because I didn't close the message. I didn't close the quotation. Yeah, now it's appeared on all the servers. Now you just refresh the page. It's welcome to IPSR. Here also welcome to IPSR. Third one, welcome to IPSR. These all happened simultaneously. So that's a advantage of using automation. Even it is a 50 or 50,000 nodes, we can use the same playbook or same ad hoc command for doing any kind of task. So this is a simple example, like setting up a web server. So Ansible can be used for provisioning a new machine. Like I can call it as a infrastructure as a code. So we can define an infrastructure as a code. So whenever you want, you can develop the infrastructure, and whenever you want, you can destroy it. So I'm going to destroy the infrastructure now. So I already created a infra code for that. So that is Ansible playbook remove web.yaml. If I execute this, removing the ports, removing the packages, shutting down all the web servers. Yeah, removing the index.page. So now you refresh, see, the site cannot be reached. So the point number one, I use this playbook to create something. Second, I use the Ansible to modify something. Third, I use this Ansible to destroy something. So these are the three things, right? You need an automation skill, right? For creating something, for modifying something, and whenever you don't need anything, you can destroy it. Suppose if you want to set up it again, it's a matter of 30 seconds maybe. Ansible playbook web.yml. YAML. Installing the packages, starting the web servers, adding firewall routes. Now refresh the page. Back to the previous one, that is welcome to webinar. Okay, so these kind of skills, that's what till now we heard, right? So the skills which is required for the future career, that is skills on cloud computing, skills on automation, and also the containers. I would like to show you the containers also. So for creating containers, I actually installed the package like Podman. So Podman is one of the container runtime. So what do you mean by container then? See, for setting up 4 web servers, I used 4 machines, right? So it's wasting resources. For setting up 4 web servers, I launched 4 virtual machines here in AWS. So now I'm going to show you within a single machine that is in a control node, I'm going to set up multiple web servers without using multiple servers. Just using a single machine, how I can create or host multiple web servers with help of containers. So the containers is nothing but a bundle of packages, files, which is minimal required for setting up an application. So here I'm going to show you a web server. So the Podman is already used or already installed here. So I'm going to search for some images because I need some images for creating containers. So sudo podman search. HTTPD is the package required for setting up a web server. Okay, so now I'm going to use a image. There are lots of images available for web server. So I'm going to use an image. I think this should work. I'm not sure because this is an open source pool of images. Let's try that. So I'm just trying to set up a web server. Okay, -d means run this container in the background. Then I'm also doing the port forwarding 8082. Yeah, there should be some sub command that is podman run. And also I should mention the name for this container, that is web. Okay. Okay, the web is already in use. Okay. So how to verify that it's already in use or not? Sudo podman ps. Okay, it's already stored. So podman ps -a. Yeah. So I will use this image. With web 1. So I'm using a different name because web is already launched. Okay, so new container is created. See, if you compare with the creating of virtual machines or a normal physical machines, it took only a second to create a container. So now web server is ready. I'm just checking that curl localhost, the port number 8082. Okay, it's just showing the web page. I mean the test web page. So I'm going to log into the container using portman exec command. So what is the container name? That is web1, and I should use the -it for interactive terminal with bin bash terminal. Okay, now I am inside the container. So this container is running on top of control node. So now I am inside the container. I'm updating the test, the index page with test page or welcome to IPSR. And I'm updating this to var www.html index.html. So now it's updated. Exit from there. Yeah, welcome to IPSR. So this is actually running in a container, not in a machine. So this is running in a virtual machine. This is running in a container. So how to access this externally? This is running on top of control node, right? So what is the IP address of that control node? This is the IP address of the control node. So opening the page. This will not work because I didn't mention the port number. So I should mention the port number 8082. So when I create the container, I use that port number 8082. Welcome to IPSR. So this way you can create multiple containers in the same machine. So that is the advantage over virtualization. The advantage of containerization over virtualization. Within a system, you can have a multiple containers by reducing the cost of resources. So that is the difference between containerization and virtualization. Okay. So I hope you got some idea about the importance of cloud, automation, containers. So we have a premium training and internship in system administration, cloud, containers, and automation. So that is actually 4 to 6 months. It takes 4 to 6 months. So you will be getting hands-on training, personal mentoring, and live internships. Like also as I mentioned, like the skills. I mean, the skills based on the case studies is very important, and also the global certification like RHCSA and RHC. So these are the curriculum for the premium course. The first one is Linux Administration 1. For understanding AWS, cloud, containers, automation, you all need the knowledge of Linux. Any Linux flavor, especially Red Hat Enterprise Linux, because that is an enterprise version of Linux. So for understanding these advanced topics, you all need the basic understanding of Linux, then networking. So after completing these 2 modules, System Administration 1 and 2, you can go for an RHCSA global certification. Then the third module is Linux automation with Ansible. So that is completely like I showed you the demonstration, right? So that is one of the basic demonstration for the Ansible. But these Ansible can be used for creating machines, modifying machines, modifying configuration files, on destroying infrastructure, creating infrastructures. So in different cases. So automation, if I tell you what is automation means, okay, automating some manual task, right? But you should have some domain knowledge, like automating. If you want to automate in networking, you should have domain knowledge in networking. If you want to automate in Linux, you should have domain knowledge in Linux. So prior to learning automation with Ansible, the knowledge in Linux is important. So that's why we were starting with Linux Administration 1 and 2, then global certification, then detailed training on automation with Ansible. Of course, the networking is important because see, we are network now, right? So the networking knowledge is important, and also the server administration, like the server client concepts. So before going to these topics, AWS cloud, containers, and automation, these modules will be covered. And this is mentored by a team. Unit 1, like I told, it's an introduction to Linux administration. Unit 2, more advanced Linux administration, like training, hands-on training on how to manage logical volumes like storage partitions, then how to schedule jobs, then things about SC Linux, firewalls, and also you will get an introduction to containers on module 2. So in module 3, okay, that is module 2. In module 3, it's completely automation. It's starting from the very beginning, like how introducing Ansible, how to deploy Ansible, then how to write playbooks, like I just showed you now, how to write a playbooks. Then in details of playbooks, like how to use variables, looping, then main important thing is roles, how to create roles in Ansible and troubleshooting. And finally, we have some case studies related to common Linux administration tasks, like how to synchronize time, how to configure networking in multiple nodes. Yeah, you will see different case studies in Linux administration. After that, you can go for RHC certification. Then in Unit 4, basic networking and server administration. So after RHCSA and CE, then certification, you can go for Unit 4. Unit 4 covers server configurations for website and web apps. See, I just showed you only the basic web servers, right? But there will be some complicated scenarios, so how to manage that kind of complicated scenarios, how to secure your server, that is server hardening, how to tune your servers, then monitoring and troubleshooting tools, shell scripting, then servers like mail server, DNS, FTP. Yeah, these are very important. DNS, FTP, then understanding of Jenkins, then hands-on practice on cPanel, WHM, and basic hardware networking knowledge. So that will be covered in Unit 4. In Unit 5, yeah, So this is our premium one. We'll be discussing on AWS, cloud, containers, and automation with some case studies, and also you will be getting a mentoring support. So in Unit 5, we'll start with the cloud introduction, like AWS, main public clouds like AWS, Azure, and also we'll discuss about the regions and availability zones with AWS and Azure. Then networking, that is virtual private cloud, module 2. Then module 3 is more advanced about VPC. Then module 4, network address translation, that is NAT. Module 5 is VPC traffic and monitoring. Module 6, VPN, again VPN related topics. Module 7, again VPC peering issues, troubleshooting VPC peering issues, and what is transit gateway and all. And module 8, introduction to EC2, Elastic Cloud Computing. Actually, I use the EC2 servers here. So these are some EC2 servers. So we'll be discussing on that. Introduction to EC2 and how to deploy. And also the images, how to create images for creating EC2. Module 9 is based on load balancing. So there are different types of load balancers available in the AWS application network. Different methods of load balancing. Then auto scaling. Auto scaling is nothing but based on the requirement. For example, you host a website, right? Okay, so initially only 10 to 100 clients are accessing your web server. Okay, so that's fine with the minimal resources. But sometimes if more people coming to access the web server, so more resources is required, right? So if you go for a manual scale up or scale down or scale horizontal scale out or scale in, it's a tedious task. So you can automate using auto scaling features. That is one of the main features with AWS. So that will be discussed in module 10. Then introduction to AWS System Manager, that is module 11. Then object storage. So there are different types of storages, right? Object-based storage, file-based storage, block-based storage. So S3 it's almost same like a Google Drive. So it's object storage. So introduction to AWS S3 in module 12. Module 13 is something related to database. Module 14 is monitoring, that's CloudWatch. Module 15, introduction to identity and access management. Okay, so this is important, right? The identity management and access management and the role, groups, security policies, all comes under module 15. Then module 16, certificate manager, AWS certificate manager, introduction to that, and how to create Route 53. Because in previous module, previous unit, we discussed about, we will discuss about DNS, right? So that is Route 53. The port number of DNS is 53. That's come the name Route 53. Then module 17, containerization. Okay, introduction to container, introduction to ECR, ECS. So that's a part of AWS containerization. Then module 18, migration, AWS migration. Module 19, introduction to AWS developer tools. 20, again, introduction to automation and configuration tools. So here we are discussing about Terraform. So one of the automation tool. Then understanding the difference between Terraform and the CloudFormation. Then 21, module 21, that is Ansible, and also another automation tool called Puppet. Okay. Then module 22, AWS data analytics. Then module 23, AWS Lambda. Module 24, day-to-day activities of AWS admin. So that is some case study related discussions will be happening on module 24. Yeah. So that's all about our premium course. Okay. So that's from my part. Okay. Over to Sijin.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for this wonderful session. Thank you for showing us some practical demonstration of this automation and container technologies.